welcome to the House of War. Today on Breaking Chains, Becky will be sharing the categories our products fall into. Becky, all of our products fall under 4 categories. The first 3 are curative, preventative, and supportive. Can you tell us about these?
Yes, we rescue men, women, and children 3 different ways, and all of the products fall into those 3 categories, and all of our programs fall into those 3 categories. And so the first one is the one that everybody loves to hear about. It's the rescue of the woman or the man who's actually being trafficked and brought to a safe place, to a safe house where they have wraparound services, they have stitches and counseling and child care, but we also give them job training and teach them a skill while they learn to dream again. The women in Cambodia that get picked up in a police raid and sent home without job training get resold. You can't just rescue someone, take them to a safe place, give them stitches, and then send them out and say, now go do something nice. And so you have to give them a way to make a living immediately while they learn to dream again. And so Curative is that way where we bring people in, men, women, or children, and if they're children, they're in an orphanage and they're not making product, they're going to school and they're graduating, and we've graduated doctors and lawyers and school teachers and goat herders and cosmetologists. But some of them are in sewing academies and they're learning to sew. So that's the curative. The preventative is really important because, you know, I'm a doctor's daughter and I'm a mom. And I know that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And we all want to know that there are those who are spared the horror of ever being trafficked. And there's something about their story that means they're exponentially at risk. And so we want to prevent that from happening and give them a way to make a living with dignity so they don't end up at our safe houses. And so the preventative program is a woman or a man who something about their story says they're about to be trafficked. Maybe their sister was trafficked, they're next. Maybe they were attacked. Maybe they have some kind of physical challenge. And so our dream is to help them dream again and to sit with them and pull them into those safe places where they can learn to make a living with dignity. And so, for example, years ago, I got involved with a widow whose husband had been an engineer. She made gorgeous tie silk scarves. And she delivered a container load of them, an 80-foot container, to a European city that took delivery and never paid her, and she went bankrupt. And so her daughter was weeping and considering going into the red light district and supporting her mom. And because we stepped into their life and started buying their scarves and helping them, today her daughter has an MBA and she helps run her mom's business. And so prevention is really important to us. And then there's supportive. And supportive is not necessarily made by a rescued woman or an at-risk woman, but it may be advocacy, it may be educational, which is also a program. And so, for example, we have books. So a book is a good example because this book here, written by Teresa Flores, The Slave Across the Street, this is curative. This is written by a survivor who tells her story. So this is written by her. But these books here are preventative and supportive because they are not written by a survivor, but they are powerfully educational books on the subject. This top one here is the very best book I've ever read, and I read every book I can on the subject. And every chapter, it's an academic book, and so it's expensive because academic books are. But it's probably the most helpful book I've ever read on the subject. But it's educational. And so advocacy is a supportive program, telling people our civilian first responder training, our 8-hour training days, even going online, you can buy the 3 keynotes from that. If you want to learn what are the 15 demographics, things that draw the eye of a trafficker to your community. So West Michigan has 12 of them. Detroit has 14 of them. When I was speaking at Quantico and the Pentagon, I gave them their demographics, or the 22 lures, or the 21 signs. So those are products that are not necessarily written by an at-risk man or woman or a rescued woman, but they're about the subject. This book called Good Pictures, Bad Pictures is one of the most helpful books I've ever seen for families on how to introduce the subject of what is a good picture, what is a bad picture. So a good picture is your families at the beach swimming and you're wearing swimming suits. A bad picture is the swimming suits aren't there, right? And so it's very concrete. But that's an example of a supportive product. And so we're very passionate about those 3 products. And those are just examples for us. And then we have a 4th kind as well.
Yes. So sometimes we have products that we call market, which is our 4th category. So what does that mean?
Market is our proof positive that we are a circle of protection. I am so passionate about market items, and here's why. A market item is not made by a rescued woman or an at-risk woman. We find a product in the market. For example, this owl bag. One of my board members was in China and saw these owl bags and bought me 100 of them. She knew, she's a grandma, she knew that this adorable little bag would sell. So she bought 100 and we beta tested it and we discovered, bingo, it sells. And so then we did our due diligence and we looked and looked and looked for a group of people that could make it who were in a program. How do we create a program around this? So one of our safe houses, one of the staff there calls me her American mom. She's like my Chinese daughter. And so I was talking to her and I discovered that her parents and the village she comes from are a people group in China that are a minority. They are Christian as well, and they are at risk and they are persecuted and abused. And so they happen to make these. And so all of a sudden, we were able to create a program around that. And so this is a market idea that went into a program. But we learned the hard way. We learned the hard way that we needed to beta test things. And let me give you some sad stories. So when you're a founder, you've made a lot of mistakes, but the key is to learn from your mistakes, right? And so we had a safe house that wanted us to buy them a machine to make paper flowers. These are frangipani, and you see temple flowers. You see these all over Asia and Buddhist temples. They're beautiful and they're fragrant. And so they told us that they were local people and they said we can make money at these paper flowers. So we didn't do a beta test. I just figured they knew what they're talking about. So we raised money, thousands of dollars, to buy them this machine. Lo and behold, nobody wants to buy these flowers. It costs too much to make them. And so today, that machine just sits in that safe house in a corner taking up space. Now, no wounded woman is out of money. We're the ones that lost money. That was bad stewardship, right? We learned, oh, we should have beta tested this. So now, once these sell out, we'll never carry them again. So sometimes there's products that we haven't done our homework on. This carved box here that I use for tissue in my office, I don't want to teach you how to carve that box if I don't know if Americans will buy it. And so literally, we, once upon a time, ordered 800 of these, this very scarf, from a woman in a very, very desperate situation. She wasn't literate, she can't read and write, she can hardly count. Wholesale in a third world country is like 3 things. So when you order 5, they celebrate. When you order 50, which is our minimum, they go nuts. So when we ordered 800, I told her, now we'll probably, I tried to explain to her, I don't know if we'll ever order them again. We have to test them. I didn't know we had ordered 800. That was a mistake we made. But they didn't sell. They sell 0.016 a month. So we have had this, I think we're down to 22 finally. These happen to be the colors of the school that my youngest graduated from. So we gave them to cheerleaders and we tried everything under the sun. But what happens is that woman then, we messed with her life. Because she is not going to believe that we're not going to order this scarf from her ever again. And so she's going to go out and she's going to put a roof on her house and she's going to take out a loan from a loan shark. And then when we don't order this ever again, the loan shark is going to come and say, I want my money. And she's like, I'm waiting for another order, which we never do. And he's like, okay, fine, I'll take your daughter. Okay, I'll take your son and chain him in a factory for slavery, labor slavery, or your daughter for sexual slavery. And so we are not making paper clips. We are dealing with people's lives. These things represent people's honest hard work, and we cannot afford to mess up on these things. When I was in Africa, our widows there, we've gotten them cisterns and goats and gardening and drip irrigation, and we built a factory there for cow horn jewelry. And then when I was there, I went into the marketplace, and I never know what I'm going to see. I never know, is there something else? Is there something else? Because we have to diversify. If this is the only thing you make and it doesn't sell, then you're done. I can't help you. I can't help you make a living forever, right? So I found these adorable little mobiles. And I thought, this is a slam dunk. But I bought 100 of them in the market. It's a market item. And I left it behind with the widows. And I said, do not start making this because they don't know how to sew yet. I said, wait until I beta test it. Let me see if this sells really well in America. I was sure it would be a slam dunk. Well, guess what? It sells, but not tons. And so I told them, don't do it. Because it's not worth them, learning how to carve a box or sew and do all this rattan work if it's not going to work, because then you end up with this lady whose life now is messed up. And so just to bring a happy ending to this scarf story, we had to scramble and come up with another way for this woman to make a living, because all of a sudden her income was over with. And so we raised money and we helped them start a cosmetology school where the girls could be trained and then go woman to woman. And today they do make scarves again for us, but we had to just stop everything because this scarf and what she was doing came to a dead end. And we did not want her to end up in trouble and her family. And so we were able to diversify, and that's what we do. But we learned from this that this was a mistake, because you can tell a woman 100 times that this is a test, but 800 of anything makes her think that for sure they'll be ordering 10 tomorrow. And I'm passionate about beta testing it and finding ways to help women make things. So for example, when we first started our cafe, I told my friends who have teacups coming out their ears, because our grandmas donated them to us. And my daughter-in-laws, they have Magnolia Farm mugs or something, right? And they don't want all the teacups that I have in my house. So I told all my friends, you know what? Donate these. We put candles in them. Now the candle is done in this very room by our rescued and at-risk American women. And I have China. I don't know why in my day we signed up for China. Dumb, but we did. And my daughter-in-laws don't want it, but I can take 4 of these and have it filled with a candle for my 4 children and give them 1 teacup that they can refill as a memento, and I can donate the rest. And so it gives me a way to give something. It's supportive. This teacup was not made by a rescued person, but the candle that's in it was. And so a beta test is a very powerful circle of protection. And we are very passionate about making things that we know will sell. This necklace here, we beta tested it. And then we found that it was selling for a while, and so we turned it over to one of our preventative women. So that was one that went from a market item to being a preventative item. This necklace here, same thing. We beta tested it, and now one of our women named Nee makes this. And so our jeweler sat with her and came up with different colorways. One of our market items is this bracelet. We're almost out. I think we only have 2 of these left. I almost wore mine today. This is bone and hematite. And if it doesn't sell very well, fine. Then we're not going to have somebody go to the trouble of making it. They will never be out the money. We will be. But it's good stewardship of the resources we have to be careful. It's a circle of protection to us as an organization, but even more important, it's a circle of protection to these women, because I do not want them to make something that isn't going to sell in America. And so my passion is to find those things that are really, really helpful and that help us help our women. So our women get paid by the hour in a safe house and by the piece in a preventative program. So if they're sitting home making scarves and tie-dyeing this at home, then we pay them by the piece. And we can talk someday about how we back into that labor. So if it takes an hour, we look to see, what does a school teacher make in that country an hour? We ask, what is daily labor? What does a school teacher make? And what does a policeman make without bribes? You have to ask that. So we ask for the wage of an elementary school teacher. These are illiterate women. When they find out that we're going to pay them, you know, whatever a school teacher would make, who's educated, a starting school teacher, they know I'm not going to get rich at that, but I can make a living at that. And so that's how we help them price it. We help them figure out a BOM sheet, a bill of materials. So the fabric and the dye and the little pom-poms on there, and then the time it takes to do the stitching and the tie-dyeing, and we pay the shipping as well, because we never ever want to put our women in a situation like we did with that lady, where she is at risk. And so in our stores and on our website, when you order a product, if you see that it's market or it's supportive or preventative or curative, I want everybody to be excited because it's helping us. We need people to just relax and shop any of this knowing that we're doing our due diligence, we're doing our homework, we're not putting a woman at risk. We will not do that. We've learned the hard way to protect them. The woman is paid 100%, no matter what happens to the product. And so we will take the hit. We will not let her take the hit. But we want to make sure that we have products that we know people like. And so we're always looking for examples. The lighted flowers are an example of something that we had free shipping. And so I just bought a bunch of those and brought them here. And we won't order those again. It's not worth it. That was a beta test that, you know, they sell, but they don't fly off the shelves. And I want those things that sell 1,000 a month, right? And so, sure, they would sell a little bit, but we want those things that really help these women change their life forever.
So really, there are 2 goals for market products. The first is to find a place, like a program where the market items can be made so our partners can grow and diversify. And most important, my market items are really proof that our goal in everything we do is to be a circle of protection.
Yes, and I want everybody to relax and be excited and not focus on that, because honestly, we need you to purchase market items as much as the other ones, because that's how we learn. That's how we learn what Americans want and what they don't want. And that helps us transfer things to programs like this owl bag and like the pearl necklace and like this. If it had been a good seller, we would have given it to the widows and it would have diversified them. And people who understand business understand that if you only make one thing and that one thing goes out, you're in trouble. And so letting them learn to make jewelry they sell there, which has a different quality and standard, and then jewelry that sells here. And so what they sell there pays for their food and their living. What they sell to us actually helps them put their kids in school, put a roof on their house. And so it's what helps them grow exponentially. And so a woman who was breaking bricks in Bangladesh, not even making $1 a day, and not able to be home with her children and working for men, so she was at risk in a Muslim culture because she wasn't working for men of her family. When we taught her to sew, and I went to the Sewing Academy graduation, and she was a widow, so we bought her a sewing machine. She wept all over me because now she works at home. She can make $5 to $10 a day because you can make $1 a sari blouse. She can make $1 a day if she wants. She can work 3 days a week and make us, she can triple, quadruple her income. Imagine if you could times 10 your income overnight and stay at home and watch your kids and take care of them and have the money to send them to school. And she just wept all over me. I was soaking wet. And they were tears of joy, and that was sacred to me. And so our beta test items are our proof positive that we want to help women. And I know that when you shop, it's fun to know that this was in the hands of a wounded woman. Yes. But I also want you to know that if this is not something you want, I also need to know that. And so I love all our products. They all have stories, and our goal is to send anything that works well to a program where people can work with dignity and increase their income, work from home in many cases, especially our preventative products, and be allowed to be with their families.
Yes, 'cause that's our goal and our mission. Well, are there any other market items that we're featuring today?
Well, I don't think there's any other. There's a bracelet here, and there's some earrings here. Now, these earrings are sterling silver, and they are abalone. And this is a market item, but I have learned over the years that abalone, for some reason, we love that in America. Mm-hmm. And so if these sell well, then we will hand them over to one of our preventative programs. We already have the person picked. So that was just an example of a sterling silver, a little bit a step up, that we were going to test and see how that went. This bracelet here is really incredible. If you know anything, jewelers who know jewelry, these teeny tiny beads are actually called spinnet. It's a stone, and they are cut, and then there's the pearl, and that beading that is enormous amount of work. And so this is an experiment to see if it sells. It's very delicate. It's very simple, colors black and white. And if it doesn't sell well, then we won't. Now we buy like 50 maybe to beta test. Mm-hmm. And so we won't pass that on. But the minute we know if that sells, that goes to one of our preventative, or we can give it to a safe house. So I have before taken products, so we have one preventative program where they make hundreds of things for us. Mm-hmm. And they had one bracelet there that was a memory wire. Mm-hmm. So all you do is you just string and pearls, string and pearls, string and pearls. You don't have to have a lot of, this takes some skill here. And each one of these pearls here, this is hand turned. Every single link is hand done. And that's a lot of skill. And so one of our safe houses, one of our curative programs rescues men. The men, we've learned, need to come and do something for about 6 weeks. They'll sit and make jewelry, believe it or not, because they need to just cope with what they've been through. But then they're done with that. And they move on to making furniture and motor mechanics, motorcycle mechanics and stuff. But I needed to give them a product that they could do that didn't take a lot of skill, because they're coming in and then moving on in the program. And so we gave them that memory wire. Okay. And they just have to sit there and string pearls and string pearls and string pearls, and then one person just turns the ends. And so those are the ways that our products move through different programs, because I knew I could take that one piece that we knew was a slam dunk, and we could give it to this program that needed it and needed diversification, because to teach those men to do something complicated when they're going to move on was bad stewardship. And so we want to use the resources that precious donors and precious shoppers give us so that we make the most and help the most people and be the most strategic with it. So we learned the hard way to beta test. And we will never have a lot of market items. They come in and they go out. One market item we have is the oil that goes in our little oil lamps. We have the hand-blown oil lamps. I don't think we sell them anymore, but at first we used to. And we learned that the ornaments sell, but the oil lamps didn't sell as well. And rather than import oil, we bought oil in America. We never intended to learn to make oil. That was not a market item that we were ever going to translate into some program. But we needed it. And so, according to the IRS, then it's not about, you know, the story in the store, but according to the IRS, then that is considered value added. You have to have that in order to sell that item. And so then it's still considered related business income. Because we're a nonprofit, we have to be careful that we don't make things that aren't made in programs. That's why we don't pay corporate tax, right? So we keep our market items very small, what you call de minimis. They won't tell you what that means, but we work to keep that number small and keep them moving and moving into our programs. So they move either into curative, preventative, or in some way supportive, and education is considered a legitimate, you know, related income source for us, but we have very few items. I don't even think we have the oil anymore. So something like that we would never ever intend to move to a program. But we needed it in order to sell the other piece. So there's very few. I don't even think I can count on one hand the number of things we have like that.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us, Becky. And thank you for joining us today on Breaking Chains. Go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Share our video on Facebook and comment below to be entered into this week's giveaway. From our house to yours, this means war.